Thank you for joining me. If you're a real estate investor looking for a smarter, more profitable way to invest in properties, especially those that seem impossible to sell, you're in the right place. In this training, I'm going to show you two powerful strategies to turn unsold homes into consistent cash flow and long-term wealth. Now, these strategies are true game changers for investors who want to maximize their returns while creating a win-win solution for both buyers and sellers. Okay. That to me is so important. Usually when we talk about investing, it's, me type of thing, or it's one-sided. These two strategies, I'm telling you, are going to be a home run. Who's this webinar for? Number one, if you are somebody that is new, somebody that is, hey, I want to get into real estate, but it doesn't look great on the news. How do we actually get involved into real estate? This is going to be a key session for you. This is going to be huge for you. There are two strategies I'm going to share with you. I'm going to actually share with you a real property and how we structured the deal. This is what a lot of people don't understand, is this part of it. And we couldn't be in a better time. Real estate comes in cycles. And so when the market's down, typically investors buy, they wait for it to increase, then they sell off, right? Or in between, they buy and hold. This is going to be a different type of training, because if you just follow that guideline as a new investor, you're going to get into the market and then you're going to get out of the market as the market changes. And what I tell people is you don't get in and out of real estate, you just change the strategy you're working. For those of you that are already in real estate, I couldn't tell you how many people we communicate with, talk with from our social media platforms, my YouTube channel. There's so many people that just do buy and hold. And right now they're scrounging around trying to find a good deal. This is what you need to be focused on over the next year. If you are just really maybe tired of competing for overpriced properties, this is where I want you to start thinking, be that creative investor. Let's just say that. And I'm going to share with you how to do that. My name is Chris Goff. I've been in real estate over, like I said, 25 years. And throughout my career, I've successfully completed over 500 deals, including flips, lease options, and creative financing strategies. I'm also the founder of REI Remix, which is a platform dedicated to helping investors like you achieve financial freedom through real estate. And as a 3-time best-selling author, I'm very passionate about teaching others how to succeed in today's market using these innovative and proven strategies. Now, over the years, I've had the privilege of helping countless people make money using these very strategies I'm going to share with you today. So what's the problem? You're starting to see a lot of homes that have for sale signs. They're just sitting there. And I'm not even just talking weeks or months. I'm talking years. We could sit here and say all day long, why isn't it selling? Well, when I look at the pictures, I look at the pricing, I look at the situation, it's quite easy to identify why that property hasn't sold. And then we look at also the expired listing side of it. So these are people that had their property on the market. Now it's fallen off. The opportunity that we have as investors, most investors are still trying to find that wholesale property, that rehab property, something maybe they could buy and rent, but they can't buy it because the interest is too high or the price is too high. It doesn't cover the actual rent. We are talking about a key market of properties that are either been listed for a while or expired, that we can use creative strategies to really solve the seller's problem, bring in a buyer, which it is a buyer's problem at the same time, and we can connect these dots and make it a win-win. This is an area that I like to invest in. This is a very expensive area. I wanted to share with you the homes for sale. And I track this every single month, and I would encourage you guys to track your market every single month. Zillow is just one way to do that. 1,300 homes for sale. 95 homes recently sold. It's like, what happened? Why aren't people buying? Is it the price? What is it? What do all of these people do that can't sell? To me, that is the biggest question. And that's the problem that we're finding. And I want you to think about this for a second. What can the seller do if it's not selling? Could they keep it listed? Sure. They could lower the price. Sure. They could find a new agent. Maybe they pull it off the market and try to sell it themselves. Could they rent the property, update the property? A lot of properties we're seeing are not in a condition that the buyers are willing to spend money on. We have to get creative with them. If you're a typical homeowner, you don't even understand what that means. Get creative. So these creative strategies I'm going to share with you today are going to solve this problem right here. Just even based on my very small market that I focus on, there's a lot of opportunity. And look, I don't need everybody to say yes. Are there going to be some of these homes that they're so wealthy that they could just sit on it for a year? Absolutely. Are there some homes that maybe they just decide to rent it or short-term rent it? Sure. What about the people that can't afford that extra mortgage payment on a vacant property? What do they do? And those are the people that I'm really talking about. It's a small number, but it's a large number of deals that I can do within a period, a certain period of time. And it's those deals that make you wealthy. You don't have to have all these yeses. And so many people, it's like, yeah, but what if I get, all these no's? And look, you're not scared of no's. You're scared of people saying, yes, I'll take the offer. Then you're like, what do I do now? Right? That's the scary part for people. It's usually the backwards part. A lot of people getting into real estate think, oh my gosh, yeah, but where are the buyers coming from? If there's no buyers buying these homes, where are they at? You really need to focus on the sellers. And I'm going to share with you through this presentation why that is so key. This has resulted, and I just pulled this from Adam Data, an increase in foreclosures. And we're going to start to see this go up. And I see it. We have talked to people in the last several weeks that they don't want their house to go into foreclosure, but at some point they can't keep making a mortgage payment on a vacant house that they can't sell. Could they rent it? Absolutely. We keep throwing that back. We even talked to an owner yesterday that actually is willing to accept less than his mortgage payment in order to rent it. Now, I know I can structure a lease option deal. Even if I can rent it for less than what the mortgage payment is, I can actually make up that difference for the owner using a lease option, which is great. Now, I'm not even going to increase the rent for the tenant buyer. So there are ways to be creative in order to, you think if I go to that seller and he's like, Chris, I'm willing to take less just to get somebody in this house, and I'll eat up the $200 or $300 a month because $300 out of my pocket is surely better than the whole amount. People are going to start to see this increase. We're seeing it increase here. Adam Data is recording the data. The wintertime is always the hard time because I want you to think about it. When is the buying season? It's in the spring most of the time. So 19% year over year change from last year. Now, this was going to happen, folks. When prices start to shoot through the roof and interest rates go straight through the roof, this is bound to happen. And that's why I've been talking about this for well over a year now, that, hey, this is your opportunity to get creative because this is really the only strategy that can solve the problem. And I love teaching the whys. I feel that if you understand why, you actually understand it better. I like to go through the whys. Now, obviously, interest rates are high. The cost of money is more expensive to borrow, right? So a buyer that can only afford $500,000 house can now only afford $350,000 house. But at the same time, we have increased pricing. As the pricing went up from 2020, right after COVID, right? Nobody thought like, hey, buy a house during COVID. That was actually the best time to buy a property. One of the worst times to buy a property was near the end of this cycle, late 2023, 24, because not only were the prices at the peak, the interest rates were so high that it didn't make sense. I want you to think these properties have had the highest price ever in history is where we were headed. And that's always going to cause problems. So people think now that, hey, it's worth this today. No, it was worth that 2 years ago. Prices tend to come down when buyers don't buy. Again, we still have this mindset if you're the seller that goes, no, it's worth this much. Well, not necessarily. Increased inventory, right? So if buyers aren't buying, you're going to have increased inventory. So sellers are going to have to do other things. Life happens with sellers. Our life will always move on, regardless of a house. It's not like back in the day where you stay in your property for 30 years. You just retire there. That's not norm. So people's lives do move on, they change. And now we have this property that they have to deal with. Just economic uncertainty, more for the buyer side of it, because obviously they don't want to buy a property where the interest rates are going to even increase on top of that. I always say you can't refinance a purchase price, but you can refinance an interest rate. So the buyers that are actually looking for properties today, the ones that are willing to spend a little bit more, are looking for exactly what they want. Where 2-3 years ago, people were buying these properties that weren't perfect because everybody was buying. Prices were going up. Hey, I want to jump into the market. So some buyers are holding back, waiting for that. These creative financing strategies that I'm going to share with you, it's huge. This is exactly what a buyer wants. Outdated, poor condition. Again, just repeating that the properties are not in a condition the buyer's willing to spend more money. We looked at 2 properties last week. One was $50,000 more, but the amount of updates and upgrades in that expensive property, buyers are willing to spend that extra 50 if they can get the mortgage for it, because their monthly payment isn't going to really change too much. So if they can afford that extra 50,000 tied into their loan, they're spending more money on the properties that don't need work, because most people don't have that extra spendable income to just throw into a property. This is also going to present opportunities for investors like us to really negotiate better deals. And keep in mind, we don't necessarily have to negotiate price. We have to negotiate terms. And what I say is, if the seller picks the price, you pick the terms. If the seller picks the terms, you pick the price. If the seller picks the price and the terms, they're just not motivated, right? They can't have everything. The property's just going to sit there. Okay, so always remember that, because that's something I always think of. Hey, if you want this much for it because you paid too much in 2023, then I need to get these terms. How much down, how much a month, how long can I do it for? I want you to see this because this has never happened in the history, at least 30 years, right? Interest rates. Now, if you go back to the early 80s, this is really where seller financing strategy was born. If those of you remember Carlton Sheets, like this was the strategy because nobody could get financing through a bank. And as you can see, it drops all the way to about the 2021. If you go anywhere between 2019 to 21, those are the lowest interest rates in history. And the problem with that, well, there's not a problem other than this problem. The problem is that people now think it's going to go back to that number. I honestly don't think we will ever see those low interest rates again. And I say that because it's never happened before over this long period of time. So if we can structure anything creative, that's great. And as you can see, obviously from 21, 24 up to 25, the interest rates just spiked up. And the problem with the interest rates spiking up is that the property values went up like crazy at the exact same time. Now it's tending to come down. And honestly, it's the only way you're going to fix the real estate market for people to afford properties is to actually lower the interest rate. When I work with owners with creative financing, this is not a big deal for me, this part, because we're buying it on terms in most cases, not necessarily the cost of money. And I'm going to share with you, obviously, those 2 strategies, but I want you to know that we may never see that low interest rate like we did ever again. All right, why does this training matter? Number one, the market is totally different today. I've never seen in 25 years a market that looks like this. So all these old rules of investing in real estate really does not guarantee success, that way of thinking. Properties, I say 90 days on the market. You could go 6 months on the market. You could go longer. Those are the properties, you think about, why isn't it sold? Well, obviously, buyer doesn't want it. So what do? The seller lowers the price. Guess what? Still doesn't sell. They lower the price again. Guess what? Still doesn't sell. Now the buyers are looking at this property and they go, honey, this property's been listed for a long time and they keep dropping the price. There must be something wrong with the property. So then buyers don't even inquire. until the price is so low that it's almost a no-brainer. What do all these sellers do? What you're going to gain today are two proven strategies. I've used these strategies in any kind of market. But if I were to add up or sum up my 25 years being in this business, one of the two strategies that I want to share with you, it is a perfect setup. If you said, what would be the ideal market for this one strategy? It would be this one. Because although you could use these strategies no matter what the market is doing, if I had to say what would be the most ideal market, it's going to be one of the strategies I'm going to share with you today. So we're going to talk about what I call that stale listing, right? So it's been on the market for 90 plus days. We're going to talk about the two types, right? So we talk about, number one, properties that are listed currently on the market. And then we also talk about properties that have been expired. So they were on the market, now they're not. We're going to talk about strategy number one, lease options, control properties without owning them. I'm going to show you how to structure one of the deals that we just did, and seller financing. So both are considered creative financing strategies, but they're totally different. How do we find these deals? And then I'm going to give you a few steps to really start with. This is in every market, by the way. This just isn't in my market. I have students across the country. It is literally in every market. How many of those properties are listed for sale? How many are really selling? That's the research that I want you to do. So let's talk about this. I always said, as soon as we get past summer, we're going to see a lot of activity for investors. And that's exactly what happened. And we're seeing it every single day. Less competition from other buyers or investors. Most investors are not working these properties because a lot of investors are very traditional or they are wholesaling. So this gives us an opportunity to really get into an untapped market as far as investors, often overlooked by others, giving really you the edge. And I want you to kind of think about this because I take all of these, what I call situations, because this is what I hear from owners every day. Property's just sitting too long, Chris. The carrying costs are just adding up too much. They are really emotionally drained at this point. They're facing financial pressure. A lot of them will have mortgages. A lot of them are sitting vacant. It's, there's a property where they're in the house, they're planning to move, it's up for sale, it doesn't sell, but they have to move, and now it's sitting vacant, thinking that they would have sold it by now. Not many people can afford an extra mortgage payment. They are motivated. We talk about motivation. Motivation comes from situations. That is, I've got to move, a family health crisis. I'm taking a new job. I can't really afford the current mortgage payment. Those are the situations that create the motivation. And the longer that property sits on the market or it's already expired, that level of motivation just increases. So that's where they're open to more creative solutions. They're open to other ideas on, really, what does it come down to? How do I keep that mortgage payment covered? That's really what it comes down to. A lot of property owners are not landlords. It's easy for investors to say, well, just rent it. And a lot of people will be forced to rent it, but why not do a lease option instead? It's just smarter. They also have the fear of losing more value. Here, they bought it maybe too much. They put too much money into it. Now their life changed. They move on. And now their fear of losing that value. And there's ways that we can structure deals in a very creative way to where they can maximize the value of that property. Properties listed on the market. These are going to be active properties. And it doesn't matter if it's an agent. I get asked all the time, how do you structure a deal with an agent? It's not that difficult to do, okay? So we have these active listings. Sellers are often more motivated, obviously. Look for signs like price reductions, outdated photos, and even poor marketing. I am stunned today when I go online and I see these crappy pictures of these homes. It's like, I thought every phone today could take better quality pictures, but maybe they have an older phone. I'm not sure. And then we move to the expired listing side. So these are properties that were listed, they didn't sell, they expired for whatever reason. But what does the seller do now? And so this is going to be another great resource for you to invest in those properties. And I'm not talking about properties that went expired 12 months ago. I'm talking about properties that have recently expired because a lot of times people are like, now, what are we going to do with it? So the first strategy I want to talk about, which is going to be the most powerful strategy for most of you, is a lease option. For those that are new, what is it? This is one of my favorite strategies, but it is a strategy that's going to allow you to, what I say, control real estate because you're not actually buying it. So you lease the property with the option to purchase it at a later date. Now, although you aren't purchasing it as an investment, but you're going to bring a buyer in that is actually going to purchase that property. This works really well for sellers that are in these two scenarios: listed on the market 90 plus days, or it's been expired. And this is going to allow you to gain control of the property with little to no money down. I want to share the subject property with you. So this was actually an expired listing. And I'm going to share some of the details of the property. I'm going to share with you what we offered on this property as well as the other strategy. So they started the price here at $340. They only dropped it 10 grand before it expired. Now, generally speaking, what that tells me, without going further, what that tells me, because I want to share with you how I look at things, maybe they didn't have that much equity. Don't know yet. But as we continue to get some more details, the current ARV is 325. See, what happens is it was worth 340 when the market could sell it for 340, but now that sellers around them have sold for less because they can't find buyers, now the property value has come down. The rent value is $2,000. Here's the thing, they have mortgage balance at $255. So why couldn't they have just lowered the price? See, people don't look at it that way, especially sellers. For me, it's kind of simple. It's like, they bought the property to invest in, live in, and they don't want to see that money go away. So they're trying to hold on to that value. Their monthly payment, and that would be tax insurance included here, is $1,650. Moving out of state for a job. It is currently vacant, good condition, no major repairs, but I would call outdated in a way that the buyers that are actually buying today don't want the outdated properties. And now, although it's livable, it's clean, looks nice, buyers are going, if I spend that much money, I'm going to have to change this. I'm going to have to change that. And then it feels like they're overpaying for the property. That's why they're not selling. I could literally go online, go through Zillow, Realtor.com, any of those out there. I can go through the pictures and I can tell you the houses that aren't going to sell. It's just the way that it is today. And that's where we have to adapt to the market as a real estate investor. There was no wow factor. And what I call wow factor is like, oh my gosh, it has a pool. Oh my gosh, it's got an outdoor grill. What wow factor does the property have? Or is it just another house, just like the 10 other houses that are around it? It really didn't have that pop because buyers aren't going to remember that. You have to put things in a house in order for buyers to actually afford to pay for it. This was actually marketed through an expired listing letter that we have. So we mailed out this letter to an expired listing list. This is a property that reached out to us. So here's the offer. Sales price was $320. You remember they had dropped it to $330. Option payment $2,500. Monthly rent is $1,700. So obviously need to do my due diligence and find out what could it lease for, $2,000. We're going to offer at least what they owe or their monthly payment, and also leave me enough room. I always say I want to make a minimum of $200 a month. So if I pay the seller this and I can get $2,000 over here from a new buyer, I want to cash flow at minimum $200 a month. Otherwise, I may not stay in the middle of this deal. Want a monthly credit. So if I pay on time every single month, I want a $200 a month credit deducted from the purchase price when we decide to buy. I want to do it for 24 months and repair threshold of 500. And what that means is we put in our contracts, and you can change this, but this has worked so well for us. The tenant buyer, which in this case would be me, is going to pay for all maintenance costs and repairs up to $500 per occurrence. So what that does is eliminates a lot of those calls to the owner saying, hey, I need this fixed, I need that fixed. Now, keep in mind, the owner still owns the property. You're just leasing it with the option to buy. So if something major went out, of course, the owner has home insurance. They have to have insurance because we specify that in the contract. Their deductible may be $500. Maybe their deductible is 1,000, but we're going to pay the first 500. Now, if they rented the property, they'd have to pay the entire deductible. Just keep that in mind. That option payment is non-refundable. That is theirs to keep, which is also going to be subtracted from the purchase price as well when we buy. If we don't buy, we lose the $2,500. Now my job is to go find a buyer that wants to live in this property. And we're also finding buyers that are actually qualified to buy, but they're waiting for the interest rate to actually drop a little bit before they actually buy. And this is a perfect strategy for those qualified buyers. It's a perfect strategy for people that need a little bit of time to get qualified. Either way, that buyer is put with my mortgage broker to paint a roadmap of what they need to do within this certain period of time in order to qualify. So we're going to set the sales price at $330. I get it. The ARV is $325. I could go up a little bit on price. I can't put this at $350, $360, because what my fear is, and a lot of people don't think about this, especially an investor, if the buyer goes and buys, gets financing, they're going to have an appraisal. Well, if it doesn't appraise at 360, as an example, they're not going to get the loan. So we have to set a realistic price on that. I think I can get $7,500 down on this property, if not 10. We're going to charge monthly rent $2,000. We're going to carry that monthly credit over, but the term is only 12 months. So I have 24 with the seller, 12 with the new buyer. And again, we're going to carry that threshold over. So the buyer now has up to 12 months. Now they don't have to wait 12 months, but they have up to 12. Now, if they can't buy, I can extend their agreement, or I can find a new buyer for the remaining 12 months to put into the property. And then again, I would collect another option payment. I would end up making more money in that scenario. But keep in mind, our goal is for the buyer to buy as quickly as possible. So as far as the seller, I want to go 2 years with you. Our goal is to close you out as soon as possible. So the results, I want you to look at the seller benefits here. They can keep more money because we're not paying a commission. If they sold it at the 330 and you took 6% commission off of that, it would be around 310. We're actually paying more than what they would have received if they had sold it with the agent. Obviously, cash flow for the owner. Sometimes the deal we can structure to where they have great cash flow. Sometimes we can't. It all depends on the numbers. But more importantly, and what we're hearing a lot from owners right now that have a mortgage, it's covering the monthly payment, which is now their biggest concern. You're going to attract a lot more buyers, and you're going to reduce landlord responsibilities. So how do we profit from this deal? Well, we're going to get I call it down payment. Legal term is option payment. The difference between what the buyer's paying me and what we have to pay the owner. So $7,500 over here, the 25, that'd be $5,000. We would cash flow $300 a month. If the buyer buys within these 12 months, we calculate all those subtractions, we would make another $5,000. Not a huge deal, right? I mean, obviously, if you did, one a month, it would be a great deal. Who are we helping? We are helping an owner, a property that didn't sell. We're also helping a buyer. Maybe they couldn't get into the property. Maybe they couldn't get financing, or maybe they were just waiting for the interest rate to come down. Either way, it solves two problems, all because you have the knowledge on how to connect the dots. The second strategy would be a seller finance. This is when you are going to own the property without going to the bank. So we're going to have the seller act as the bank. Why it works. This is perfect for sellers that are trying to maximize long-term investment on the property, because we're going to pay interest just as much as they're paying interest on their loan. Some of the properties we work with don't even have loans, which makes this a lot easier to do. But we could still do seller financing with properties that have mortgages. We can get it on better terms. I can structure a seller finance deal today with an owner better terms than if I go to the bank. And if you think about it, isn't that what the seller wants to get rid of the problem, right? If the rules over here say, interest rates are super high, but the owner is willing to give you a lower interest rate because either they have a low interest rate, or maybe they really don't owe much, or maybe they owe nothing on the house, they can offer a lower interest rate. that's going to bring in more buyers, period, because now the buyer can afford it. So the offer, 305, I always make this sales price less than my lease option sales price. Okay, because I want the offers to be different. I don't want the sales prices to be the same. Lease options, the price is always going to be the highest, then seller finance, then a cash offer. We can put down $5,000, pay 4% interest. We're going to amortize that over 30 years, but we're going to do a 5-year balloon, meaning that we're going to make payments up to 5 years and we have to cash you out within those 5 years. How is that done? Well, it depends on your exit strategy. So let's look at this from the owner's point of view. They can get long-term income with interest. A lot of sellers we talk to, they may have like 50,000 in equity. And it's like, what are you going to do with the 50 grand? Well, we're just going to put it in the checking account. Well, why would you do that? Why don't you just finance the property and use it as an investment for long term? When you own the property as the investor, the seller doesn't have to worry about maintenance, repairs. They don't have to worry about taxes, insurance, because you own the property now. Potential tax advantages. Some sellers can't sell today because of capital gains. So they have a much higher total earning over the course of time, because as you know, if you lived in a house for 30 years, you're going to pay about 3 times the amount of the house when you have a mortgage. And again, depending on what interest rate and the term you have, but general, normal people, that's what happens. Now, your profit really depends on the exit strategy. What do you want to do with it? So when you seller finance it with the owner, you have multiple options. You could rent it. Maybe you put a little bit of money into it and sell it. You could lease option it. Maybe use it as a short-term rental. You could apply the BRRRR method. Depending on where you want to go with this property and what your personal goals are. Some people may say, hey, Chris, I need to make as much cash as possible with this. Okay, well, then maybe we should put a little bit of money into it and sell it. Some people say, I want to make some cash flow for the next couple of years and then sell it. Well, maybe a lease option. Hey, Chris, this property is in such a good location. I think I want to hold on to it long term. Okay, well, rent it. It really comes down to you. How do we find these properties? I'm going to give you a couple of really good places to start. Properties that are listed for sale, you can go online. You have the Zillows, you have realtor.com. If you have access to the MLS, we do have a lot of agents that are now investing because it's hard to make money when houses aren't selling. Obviously, you can go online for those. And again, expired listings, we would need to have access to the MLS or work with an agent that can get us expired listings. I'm going to share with you exactly what we need to look for here in just a second. You can use filters depending on what site you're on. Look for keywords, motivated seller, of course, any kind of price reduction. Some of you may know this, some of you may not know this. I talked about Zillow and all those, but Redfin has a new AI tool for searching. If you go in there and actually use the AI tool to say, show me all the homes that have been listed for sale for 90 plus days in your area, it's going to come up and filter those properties for you. I like how Redfin does this. It helps. Zillow is okay in regards to this, but I think they just do a little bit better, especially with this AI tool they have. So I wanted to share that with you because a lot of you may not know that. Now, expired listings. Number one, obviously identify the area. What location? Specific neighborhood. Where is it that you're looking? Where do you live? Price range. Set that price range. I would start what I call the middle of the road price range. What is the average sold price in your big area? Start there, maybe even a little bit below that, because that is the price range for most of you where the majority of your buyers are. The type of property, is it a single family? Is it a condo? Is it a mobile home? What type of properties are you looking for? Or maybe you're looking for multiple types of properties. You're going to ask for anything listed longer than 90 days. Keywords and agent notes. Look for keywords like motivated seller, price reduction, or needs TLC. And ask for any private agent notes, because those aren't public, but only the agents can see that. That might reveal the seller motivation or unique property details. You can have your agent email this to you every 30 days. It's up to you to track that. I love Excel spreadsheets for this personally. One of the things that you're going to do when you do this, which you may not be looking at, is you're actually building a relationship with the agent. Every deal that we do is going to be different per property. There are ways, yes, the agent can get paid. If you are an agent and another agent refers a property to you, you can pay a referral fee. If an agent refers a property to you without a license, you cannot pay a referral fee, at least based on the realtor laws. You don't get in trouble, the agent could, which draws red flags. So just some steps to really get started, especially if you just kind of new to this, not sure where to start. Start targeting your area. Now, if you live in a super expensive neighborhood, well, don't start there. So with the neighborhoods around you, I want you to think of that middle price range, maybe just below that. Obviously, research the property, seller motivation, any kind of keywords, things of that nature. We're going to use two strategies: lease options, seller financing. We can negotiate those terms that work for both parties. And of course, if it's listed on the market, we can work with the agent. One question somebody's going to ask, so I'm going to go ahead and answer it now. How do you pay the agent if it's expired, if they sent me the listings? Well, it depends on how you buy it. There are various ways to do that, which I have talked about in other videos, obviously talk about it in my course, but there are plenty of ways to make everybody happy. Now, again, the numbers have to work. My goal when structuring numbers is first solve the seller's problem to where I know that I can make something. The next is, okay, how does the agent get paid? So it's just a matter of how we structure the numbers that makes it a win-win. It's really like there's no rules when it comes to that. It's like, where can we fit a profit in? Is it through the down payment? Is it through the sale of the property? Is it maybe they get half of the first month's rent? What is it that, and how is it we could structure that for everybody to win? That's just us being creative. And in today's world, you need to be a creative investor. I think lease options are probably going to be the ticket for most of you. If you are just getting started, this is where you're going to see much more success, where you're not competing with wholesalers and rehabbers and so forth. Like I said, we can pay a higher sales price. The deed is going to stay with the seller because remember, you're just leasing it with the option to buy. There's going to be reduced maintenance responsibility for the owner. And there's ultimately going to be more money in their pocket because they're avoiding any kind of real estate commissions unless we have to structure a commission. A lot of times we don't have to structure that full commission. There's other ways we can embed that into the offer to make the numbers work. But ultimately, they can walk away with more money. And I think that is what people are not hearing today, is how we can be creative as investors. We don't have to be known as we buy, the cheapest houses, fix them up. And although that's great, but we don't have to be known for that. We can be known to solving these problems that agents and sellers don't know how to do because it's not their job. They're not taught how to do that. Now, while this isn't an immediate sale for the owner, a lease option puts the seller in the best position to cover their payments, reduce their mortgage balance, and eventually sell to a buyer who's ready to purchase. It's a strategy that creates flexibility, financial relief, and long-term benefits really for everybody involved. I want you to imagine this. I want you to imagine actually closing these deals where you are. There are so many opportunities. It's just a matter of opening our eyes and looking through a new lens, really. What if you had that proven system where you can structure these lease options step by step? What if you could avoid the guesswork? Because I know a lot of people, they will spend the next 6 months on YouTube trying to figure out how all these dots get connected. You can see these results pretty quickly. This is you working for you, right? AI cannot take your job away from you. That's kind of the beauty of this whole business. So I have helped so many people, and I want to share with you something because I want to help you out as well. So before we get into the live Q&A, I just want to take a moment to share something I'm super excited about. And I didn't want to take away from our teaching time today, but if it's okay with you, I'd love to quickly introduce you to something that can help you dive deeper into mastering lease options. And for those of you who are ready to take what you've learned today to the next level, I've created the Master Lease Option Course. It's a step-by-step program designed to give you everything you need to confidently structure, negotiate, and closed lease option deals. This course is packed with the exact strategies I've used to complete over 500 deals. And it's helped really countless investors like you create consistent cash flow. And for a lot of people, long-term wealth. Now, I know we can't think long-term, especially for those of us that, Chris, I need cash today, right? You're going to get 6 in-depth modules covering every aspect of lease options. This is also going to include all the forms, all the contracts. There are 3 contracts that you have to have with lease options. And I've created multiple charts to really help. I don't care if you don't know how to spell house. I broke this down so simple for everybody. So these 6 modules, module 1 is where we talk about the fundamentals. I know as a teacher, when I teach this, you have to have a strong foundation. When you understand this strategy like you've never understood it before, it's going to build confidence. Because if a seller asks you a question, you're going to have the answer. Why? Because you understand the foundation. I'm going to share with you how you profit. I'm also going to give you a 30-day kickstart. Whereas module 2, if you're new and this is, hey, Chris, I haven't even set up a business, I'm going to walk you through how to do that. I'm going to walk you through how to keep your costs down, the things that I would recommend starting off, and in the exact steps I do it, which I think a lot of people fail. It's like, hey, you got to do this, got to do this. Yeah, but when do I do this versus that? Do I do this now or should I get that done now? So I teach it in a way that this is exactly for if I started a new business, this is exactly the same steps I would take in order. Module 3 is really, I call it the meats and potatoes, because this is where I break down what I call my 10 executable steps. These are the physical steps you have to take in a specific order to make deals happen. So step 1, as an example, would be talking about how do we find deals. I'm going to give you so many different ways to find these deals that a lot of investors really kind of overlook, all the way into how do we craft the offers? How do we run comps? What forms do we use? I'm going to include all of that in this section. How do we put it under contract? What do we even say? What happens if I can't find a buyer? How do we actually get the buyer? How do we do the contract with the buyer? How do we close the deal? Where is the closing? All of those steps are going to be in module 3, and I teach it in a way that it is a step-by-step. Module 4 off by mistake here. But that's going to be talking about scaling your business with marketing, how you use tools, AI tools, and so forth. I love that particular module because it takes today's technology and implements it into the modern day real estate investor, which is really cool. Module 5, how do we overcome challenges? All the what ifs. How do we do this? How do we do that? Hey, the seller asked me this, now what? So we do go through all of that. 6, comprehensive recap. I'm going to give you a monthly lead generation checklist. I actually give this to my coaching students. We're going to go through a case study because I want you to see a real property. We also do live Q&A sessions, which are private sessions for all of the members that are in this course. There's module 4 that unfortunately I moved over. You're going to have 12-month access to this. And obviously there's a tremendous value here. I believe this is what it should sell for. I sell coaching for more than this. I want to make it affordable, but you still need all these things. Otherwise, you just get bits and pieces of stuff. And I hate that. It's like, yeah, what am I missing? You're going to have everything. There isn't anything if there was something I felt was needed in the course, I would have put it in here. And I just want to be clear for people, lease options, you can work any type of property. Really the key, there's kind of an inside look there, but the end of this course, you are going to have a complete high-performing system. I give you the tools. The systems are taught through how I teach it. Any successful business has systems. When do I market? When do I call? How do I do this? What day of the week do I do this? I break it all down into a way that you don't even realize you're learning a system until you get to the end. And I've taken all of those 25 years and experience and dealing with thousands and thousands of owners and these deals that there are very specific things that you have to do as a real estate investor of what I've learned. And I'm taking that experience and just packing it into this course. And I know a lot of you ask, I call it a 30-day challenge guarantee. Give it a good college try, as I say. Here's why I love lease options. Number one, you don't have to give lowball offers. You don't have to compete with all those wholesalers out there, which the majority of people that get started in real estate start with wholesale. I think this strategy is easy to learn. And the way that I teach it in the course, you're going to know more than, I would say, 99% of the investors out there. I say this because I deal with investors and I hear what people say, and they're very confused on this. Yeah, but what if this happened, Chris? What if that happened, Chris? It's all answered in the course. You get paid up to 3 times per deal. That's beautiful. I mean, if you wholesale a house, which I still love wholesaling, but if you wholesale a house, you get paid 1 time and then you're unemployed until you find another property. With lease options, you get paid up to 3 times, which I love. It's perfect for tired landlords, expired listings, vacant properties, low equity owners. You think about all the properties that don't have much equity in them. You can structure a lease option in this. You don't need cash, you don't need credit because you're not buying the property. You see Gary here, nice profit on a lease option. He was very emotional because of the buyer, actually. The buyer is like, there's nobody out there to help people like this. I think this is a much needed service in the industry right now. There's simply just not enough of us out there. Big one from Brian Tracy there. These are just average people, real people that have taken the information and they applied it. Some people get the information and do nothing with it. You have to apply the information for anything to happen in anyone's life. In a nutshell, obviously, you're going to get access to all the modules for 12 months. It's all online, hours and hours of training. All of my after repaired value form. This is how we determine valuation of the property. You're going to get a checklist for your business preparation. All the questions you need to qualify your buyers with. You're going to get all the contracts I talked about, your marketing letters, benefit sheets. How do we craft an offer? Chris, how did you come up with that offer? And then one of my most famous pieces, probably, because I've had people at live events try to take this from me on a break, is my executable chart. So what I've done is I've taken all those executable steps and I've consolidated into one big chart. And a lot of people print this off. They have it laminated. They put it on their desk. It's a friendly reminder of saying, okay, I've done step 1, 2, 3. Now what? Knowing exactly where you are with the deal and where it needs to go. What do you do next? Too many people say, yeah, but now what? This chart walks you through that process along with the modules and the teaching. Our marketing matrix chart, that lead generation checklist, I break down a full month of what you would do Monday through Friday. Now you can change that. Here's what I would be doing if you are getting started on Monday, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for 4 weeks. Our neighborhood matrix chart, our property flyer, our property research form, which is the form and questions of what you're going to ask the owner of the property. This is how we qualify the lead. Property inspection form, a method chart, a rental application, game plans, and you can access this information any device. It tracks where you left off, which is really cool. I love the system. Also going to throw in those 2 bonuses, the sell smarter, negotiation tactics. And what everyone has been talking about is our monthly Q&A. This is where once a month, only our lease option course members attend this. I host it every single month. I talk about a subject matter, which you guys tell me what you want to talk about. And I'm like, all right, let's put it together. And then I take these sessions, record them, and I put them back in your course. So not all the time you can make it to the live session. We're going to put this back into the course for you. So we have 2 ways to enroll into the course. First one is pay in full. Special discount price is our $697. You can see total program value is over $6,000. When you add everything together, regular price $1,497. This is affordable, guys. You don't even need to do a half of a deal in your entire life to pay for this. But the knowledge that you are going to receive is way more valuable than any money you make on this program. This price is going away. That's why I wanted to do this before Thanksgiving. It's going away mid-December there. As a bonus for those that pay in full, I do a 30-minute call with you, just me and you on my cell phone. I'm happy to do it on Zoom as well. This is a great time for us to talk about your goals, where to start, how to analyze a deal. It's really going to build confidence. I don't really care what we talk about. It's your 30 minutes. And I'm also going to send you some REI remix swag. We do have a payment plan available, and it's going to be $349 a month for 3 months. Okay. Again, that's going to expire. If you're ready to enroll, go to my website, REI Remix. You can click on the banner at the top, or you can click the store, go to Lease Option Course. You get started right away. I took that leap of faith when I was making 48 grand as an airline mechanic. I was confused. I didn't have much money, but I just believed in it. There was just something in my heart that said, I'm going to go do this. Get out of my way. I don't want to talk to anyone. This is what I'm going to do.